Hey, Paul, how you doing?
Doing well. How are you?
Good.
If I'm too dark here or too light. Okay. Are we all right?
Yeah. So we've all been to Action Park, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And Seth made the film, but before we get into the film, he's a big pinball guy. Do you like pinball at all?
I do.
Well, he was explaining me the difference between the Led Zeppelin pinball machine and the Guns N' Roses pinball machine.
Yeah, we got these two new music pins that just came out, and it's like couldn't be more different. I was saying that the Zeppelin game is like a lunchbox licensing deal, right? Like they give them some assets, give them some songs. Here's how it is. It's like a poster you'd find in a dorm room. They're not doing anything new or creative, right? Guns N' Roses game, Slash's credited co-designer, and it shows. Like they have every video clip, every song, everything. They record custom call outs with like Slash and Axl and Duff, and they did all sorts of just like crazy stuff. So a lot of like what's on the playfield is like Slash's ideas from Slash's brain, like what he would want in a GNR game, not just like what some designer who may not know the band that well might want. But also the coolest thing about it, which may not be obvious if you're just kind of like walking by, they have I think like 22 or 26 full songs in it, and each of the songs, like beginning to end, like whatever 9 minutes November Rain, coded in as a custom light show. So while the song plays, they have all these crazy LEDs. It's like you're at the concert, like pure, directed in synchrony with the music. Plus they have just like hundreds of hours of concert footage, and then all of the videos that the band plays like during their concerts too. So it's just like the whole smorgasbord. Yeah.
So they've got access to everything.
And that's super rare with the pinball game, because a lot of pinball games are really the victims of like the licensing deals, especially if they're dealing with big licensors like Disney or Marvel. Like those folks, you're dealing with, you got to play ball. And to have a licensor who's like, we are active participants, we're going to give you the kitchen sink, give you everything.
Who made the Guns one?
Jersey Jack too.
Wow.
And so it's
Jersey Jack.
Yeah. So Stern made the Zeppelin, and Stern is like the big dog, the big company, but also like the mass produced company, right? Jersey Jack puts out a game like every 2 years, and the games they put out are like artisanal. They're much more stuff going into them, much more care, much more everything. So when they put out a game, it's like kind of a bigger deal. And it's a whole lot more goes into, a lot more toys, a lot more stuff.
Wow, man.
Yeah. But GNR game's like one of the best games like ever made. Yeah.
Oh man.
A friend of mine owns the company Motorhead and Iron Maiden's merch company. So he's got the Iron Maiden game at his place. And it's different when you've got the ones that are like, you've got the high end version. They're so much better than just the straight light. You know what I mean? Like it's a licensing deal, but it's still got all the music. They do it the right. It's the night and day difference.
Yeah. Well, Iron Maiden was made by Stern also, but Iron Maiden is like a great game, mostly because it was made by like the best designer who's working in pinball today. This guy Keith Elwin made that, and that was his first game. And that game's a little, it's not good in the same way Guns N' Roses. Guns N' Roses like this perfect symphony of like the theme coming together with the design, and like everything on that playfield was designed with the mindset of we are making a Guns N' Roses game. Iron Maiden was totally different, because Iron Maiden, the whole design and layout began as an Archer game. Actually, it was like a homebrew DIY game this guy made based on Archer without the license, obviously. Stern's like, we want to hire you, we want to make this game, how would you feel about turning it from an Archer game into an Iron Maiden game? So it's all kind of retrofitted in.
Okay, yep.
So it's a great game, but nobody made that thinking we're making an Iron Maiden game.
Right, gotcha.
Yeah.
And it's still like night and day difference between that and like the super low end straight licensing deals. I feel like I played a bunch of the band ones where it's like you could barely it's nothing, you know what I mean? It's just cookie cutter stamps.
Well, nowadays they're doing a little bit better with that, because like you have the LCD screens and better sound systems. You could play a game from like the 90s, even like the GNR game from 90s that Slash was heavily involved with too. You're dealing with like a computer chip that can put out a couple of beeps and boops and like a really short music clip. You're not dealing with full songs. You're not dealing with like 30 songs. And you're certainly not dealing with like concert footage and like video stuff with the dot matrix. Now you just need a whole lot more assets for the game to like even feel complete. Yeah.
Or it's like you might as well be playing the Kiss game from the 70s.
There's some I mean, I've got over there, I've got the Elton John game, and I got
really?
music in it. Yeah, and it's great.
Oh, cool.
It just kind of like sits there as a cool piece of art. I mean, there's like cool like old Dolly Parton game that would be great to have. Those are just like different beasts. You don't want those things to be blasting music too. That just like kind of sits there. Yeah,
it's a different feel. Yeah,
it's
like talking about roller coasters, like the old wood roller, it's like the old wood roller coasters versus like the monstrosities, the marquee attraction at Six Flags.
Yeah, they're so different, and it's like such a different experience, as the generations of these technologies kind of turn over, and like what people expect from like a roller coaster or a pinball machine for that matter. Yeah.
Did you guys go to Great Adventure before we get to Action Park? So you went, Seth? Did you go, Paul?
I don't think I ever went to Great Adventure because of where I was situated. Action Park was like the destination to go to if you were in the north. A Great Adventure we had Six Flags over Massachusetts, Agawam, Riverside. It was Riverside Park at the time. Now it's Six Flags over Massachusetts, but it was Riverside. So that was the one we went to. And then I also had, at a lower level, I had Lake Compounce. Okay. The Lake Compounce in Connecticut. Like that was less than an hour from my house. Agawam was about an hour 10. And Great Adventure was a couple hours. So like I think I went there once. I don't even remember it, to be honest with you. It was because we always went to Riverside. Riverside was our go-to.
And Seth, you remember we had Rolling Thunder at Great Adventure, and that was the wooden one when they built it. Like, I'm sure you had wooden roller coasters. They just shook, man.
You feel like screws are popping off of those things. Like,
it was called the Cyclone. I think it was called the Cyclone at Riverside.
Yeah.
They
Cyclone's also the Coney Island one.
The Coney Island one also. Yep, I know. Yeah. No, I know there's a Coney Island one, but I think it was called the Cyclone. It was, you walk in, and it's like right when you walked into Riverside, it was like the marquee roller coaster right up front.
Yeah, a good wood roller coaster is pretty, like, they don't make them like why would they? So like it's one of those things where it's like a good old diner where it's either old or it sucks. And and it's kind of like they don't make them like that anymore. You kind of want these to be preserved, hopefully. Knott's Berry Farm out in California has got some really cool wooden roller coasters too. Yeah.
Man. I've never been there. That's so crazy. Me neither. And it's like I live out here. My wife and I have season passes for Six Flags here. We've never been to Knott's Berry.
Go during Halloween when they do Knott's Scary Farm.
Yes.
That's like the time to go. Especially because like, everybody's just there for the haunted houses. So you can just walk on like any ride too. There's like no lines during that for the rides. Yeah.
Oh, really? Because the lines are always long at Six Flags.
Well, the lines are long for the haunted houses, but the rides, nothing. So you just like walk on all the rides during that.
I just looked it up. The magic of Google. It was the Cyclone. Yep.
There you go.
Wow.
Then they adapted it to be the Wicked Cyclone.
Oh man.
Wicked.
So Wicked Cyclone, formerly Cyclone. It opened as a wooden roller coaster as the Cyclone, and it's probably like what they did at Six Flags, because Six Flags here in LA, they had can't remember what it was, the one that was in Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park. I can't remember what the name of the roller coaster is, but it's a Six Flags. They revamped it. So it's they call it a hybrid. You have no thing, but it's literally the most fun roller coaster they have there.
Yeah.
And it's always the longest line. So whenever we go there, it's the last, like if they close at midnight at 11:58, we jump in line because they don't throw you out of line. So it's like, that's always the last one we go to on the way out.
Man. And still, no matter how scary those roller coasters were, you knew you were safe, unlike Action Park. Did you guys know you were cheating death when you were doing that? When you were going, Paul, did you know you're cheating death?
I was too young to think I was cheating death. I'm at my age now, I'm afraid to get on a snowboard. But back then you're like, you'll do anything. You never thought you were cheating death. You were just like, it was like I said, that was the destination place for us to go to, because it was a haul and we had to wait for someone's older brother to drive. And it was an adventure going down there. We heard, so you just wanted to experience it. And I wasn't even.
Yeah, it lived up to its reputation too. Like the thing that's, you hear that a lot from people where it's like somebody's older brother, somebody's cousin took me. It wasn't a place that like your mom was taking you for the most part. My parents did, however, take me there, but but the experience is probably very different too, because when you're there with just like some other teenagers or whatever else, the chaotic air seeps in and turns, man into animal, and the rules of God and man just sort of cease to exist.
Man, Paul, do you have any questions for Seth about anything? I mean, he's so in this thing, man. It's crazy.
Oh, so what was your? Because I loved the documentary. We watched it pretty immediately when it came out, and it was such a flashback, and it was so, because my wife's from Michigan, so it meant nothing to her, you know what I mean, but she loves amusement parks, so it was like we're watching it and she's like, wait, was it really like that? I'm like, oh no, it was really like that.
It was worse.
It was worse.
Yeah.
And what got you? I'm always fascinated in my journalism background, like what gets somebody going down that road, like was this just, were you always obsessed with it? And we're like, this is something.
Yeah, I went there as a kid, but I didn't go there much, and I was super young. I did go there with my parents, super young. And so I probably said this last time I was on the show, but like I had these memories just kind of banging around in my head that didn't square with my idea of reality. I'm like, there's no way I saw that. I did that. That was real. That must have been. I'm confusing that with like a Bugs Bunny cartoon, like there's no way that was real. That was from The Simpsons. Like the blur, especially when you're super young. And just like the blurriness between fantasy and reality, especially it's sort of there in your memories. And then like, also when you're there and you're told, I mean, people are saying out loud, that's dangerous. A kid got stuck in that. Somebody got decapitated. You're like hearing that in there. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But when you're 6 years old, you go to Disney World and you go in like the Haunted Mansion, somebody's like 1,000 ghosts are there. Like, you don't know what's real and what's like storytelling, like what's real danger and what's the artifice of the amusement park. And so I got older, I was like, this place in my brain was messed up. Was it really that messed up? And so I started looking into it, and you just kind of find a lot of like urban legends and like rumors and a couple blurry photos of that crazy looping water slide. And you start digging around and you start realizing that like a lot of people have this experience where they like experience this, but nobody believes them. It sounds like some Jersey boast, people's like spouses don't believe them. And it just kind of enters the realm of urban legend to the point where the people who experiencing it are like, aren't even sure what's real. And I was a journalist by training as well. And I was like, I'm gonna look into this a little. So I did a couple articles on it, like way back in like 2009, 2010, when there wasn't really much on there. And then 2013, I gave a lecture on this too. And then in 2013, we turned that into this like short documentary that went like kind of viral. And we ended up speaking to like former employees, but management, like people who like ran the park. And the craziest thing happened was like, instead of them being like, no, it was a myth, the place was perfectly safe and normal, they're like, it's all true. It's the craziest thing I've ever heard. And that really, I think, gave a lot of people, validation of the memories, but also gave a lot of people who grew up like working there who might not know if like we should be talking about this. Is this like a dirty secret? Like, are we allowed? It kind of gave them permission, I think, to like open up about it and talk about it. So a lot of people started approaching me then and being like, oh, that short was cool, but here's the real story. Here's all the real crazy stuff. I just started collecting all these stories, and then like 7 years later turned into a movie, so it's a lot of that.
So you grew up in Jersey?
No, I grew up in DC.
So
I was only there. Okay. Yeah. So I was only there a couple times at Action Park. If I'd been there like every summer, I wouldn't have doubted it was real, like it would have been, but it was only because I went there a couple times at a really young age that the memories felt very like fragmented and blurry. And a lot of what I was trying to do was kind of like fact check that. I feel like my experience would have, if I was from Jersey, I would have been like, what's the big deal? This is Jersey, this is what we do here. And I probably wouldn't have thought as much of it.
That's part of one thing that fascinates me, because we're all kind of, I consider DC like the bottom of the Northeast. You know what I mean? Like we're all, I feel like the world has gotten so much smaller in like the age of the internet and the age of like, everything's online. So, it's California to New York are so close now, but they weren't that close back then. And I feel like Action Park is something that you really needed to be from that tri-state area to get. It was just it was a park that couldn't exist somewhere else. It wouldn't have worked in Kentucky. It wouldn't have worked in California.
They had their own stupid, dangerous things, is what it is. And I think one of the reasons the movie struck a nerve was that like, even if you're not from New Jersey, even if you didn't go to Action Park, you did your own stupid things. You did your own, like, you know, building ill-advised BMX ramps, breaking into abandoned mental hospitals, swimming in quarries, like doing stuff where it's like, in hindsight, like, we should be dead. Right. If you're in Kentucky, maybe you're making bad moonshine. I don't know what it is. And it all, but something about Action Park and like the personalities involved and the temperament of it was very distinctly Jersey. And it was sort of this, I think, the Jerseyest expression of like 1980s latchkey stupidity. Was what it was. You know, people in other states were doing their own stupid things for sure. But everybody, I think, can relate to the self-destructive upbringings that many people had in that era.
Yeah,
that's so true. And I went there as many times as you probably, Seth. I think one or two. With my dad was probably like mid-20s and an outlaw, not really taking us many places and go, I'll go there. We'll stay at the Playboy Club and we'll go to this place. Gonna blow your mind. And I didn't know. It was real till your movie. Exactly. I didn't know someone died in Action Park and they've got electric. You just thought it was all urban legend, like Mikey died from Pop Rocks or something. You know, it was just. And I mean, we all remember going down that Alpine slide where you're like, whoa, I could fucking die in this. I could fucking die. Like you're whoa. This is.
But you were also just, you had to, or you would have been ridiculed. If you didn't do it, you were chicken. And that was it. It was just like, and you're too young to be like, well, no, this isn't smart. You're just like, I can't be chicken. I'm going to get picked on in school for the next 2 years if I don't do this.
So you're from Massachusetts,
swing off that rope.
Paul, you're from Massachusetts? Connecticut. Okay.
Connecticut.
So maybe it's a little different in Connecticut. I don't know. But Massachusetts, like I think the people who like really resonates with the most are either people from like the tri-state area, New York, New Jersey, or Massachusetts. Massachusetts is like the most Jersey place that's not New Jersey. And no,
you're totally right. They're the only people. And when I moved to California, they are the only people crazier than us that I have to get scared when you go out with someone from Brockton or something. Yeah, exactly.
It's like you don't. Can we curse on this? We can curse on this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like you don't fuck with those people. And it really was like an Action Park was a place where the pure id of like teenage machismo and where being called a pussy was the worst fucking thing that could happen to you, right? Yeah. Like, God forbid. That was real in Jersey and that was real in Massachusetts. And it was something about Philly too, I'm sure. But something about those cultures, like the real, like, you gotta be tough. You gotta be tough kind of cultures. If you're not tough, you're nothing. And you throw that into Action Park, which is this proving ground of toughness. In a way that like is not rubber coated, it's not padded, it's dangerous. That's what made it what it was. And you transplant Action Park to a different culture, maybe people get hurt, but not as many because they're coming in with a different mentality.
Mm-hmm. It had that feeling of like being on the school playground with no teachers around. You know, it was just like the whole time you're walking around, you're like you're scared of the bullies, you're scared of the kids that are tougher than you. And you got to do everything you're allowed to do.
And you're scared of being made a target and being like singled out. You know, at Action Park, like so many of the attractions at Action Park were exhibition in nature. You're jumping off a cliff in front of a couple hundred people. You're going off the Tarzan swing in front of a couple hundred people. And that's your chance to show, like, are you going to slip and fall and be a fucking pussy? Or are you going to do a backflip and kill it and like moon the audience and show you don't give a fuck and whip out the middle finger, whatever it is, right? And get the cheer and get the applause. And you know what that crowd wants. Like that crowd wants blood. Like they don't want somebody to do just like a simple, like, you know, jackknife dive in. They want somebody who's going to do something fucked up, who's going to belly flop, who's going to, you know, that's like the Roman Coliseum out there. Like they're out for blood. And you really put that out there, like the pure pressure. It's not just like three friends trying to get you to smoke weed. It's 300 people from Jersey telling you better fucking jump off that cliff or you're never going to hear the end of it, you know?
Yeah. And this is Jersey before the Jersey Shore. This is Jersey before. Yeah.
Well, you know, you're describing a guy, and I don't think any of us are this guy, but we all knew that one lanky farm kid, crazy kid growing up that could do anything with his body. That could
like
just do
Steve-O type, right?
Exactly. And you'd see that kid there. He could keep the cigarette and the beer and do the whole, and like, just fearless.
And he'd do it for $20. You got to get $20. He'll drink anything.
Literally the fear gene. His name is like Billy Sheminsky. Like he's also got a name like Dale or something that goes with it. And that fear gene is missing. It's literally missing. And he didn't become a pro.
It out. Yeah, no amygdala in that guy's head. He's just going full tilt. And you got him because like when that kid was 6, he got the shit kicked out of them all the time. So by the time he's 13, he has to learn to like, oh, I'm gonna own it, you know, and I'm gonna kick my own ass kind of thing. And like use my body in ways it shouldn't be used. You know, that's how you get like that, like you know, like a Steve-O type, really. Yeah.
Oh, I mean, as soon as we moved to California and we didn't have the zero fear gene, I was regular Jersey. We went to every apartment complex. Wait, you can jump in the pool off the second floor? Let's do it everywhere now. And I'm not near the crazy guy that was at Action Park.
Absolutely. Different time, man. Different time. Yeah. So your dad took you to the Playboy Club back in the day?
He did. And I thought it was all a vision until I saw your movie. Like I said, was that, wow, you know.
Did that really happen?
Did that really happen, man?
It's so random that like Hugh Hefner's like, this like random wooded hill in Jersey. Let's put a fucking Playboy Club there. Yeah. And then, you know, they did it because they thought gambling was going to come up in North Jersey like it was in the AC. It just never happened. And the place over the years just like slowly fell into greater and greater states of disrepair. You know, it's still, the structure is still there. It was just condemned like a year ago or 2 years ago. Yeah, people were living there, like real kind of low income slumlordy management, like not taking care of running water, mold, all that kind of stuff. And they finally like condemned and evicted everybody just like a year or two ago.
Wow.
And it was weird because like back in the day it was like a hop and spot. It was a nice luxury resort. And then like its final, right, I can find photos and like articles about this, was like kind of people and, you know, not doing so well personally, financially, whatever else, being kind of thrown out of their homes. Real sad. Yeah.
Oh
wow. And I think Debbie
how far was it exactly from?
Like a half mile. Like you could see it. Yeah, you could. I mean, at one point they either built or were going to build. Can't remember. Sorry, guys. A monorail that would connect Action Park to Playboy. So Playboy Club, it was called like Playboy Club at Great Gorge. Great Gorge was one of the ski resorts that Action Park was sort of the summertime attraction for. So it's all kind of the same resort area.
And I think Debbie Harry worked at that Playboy Club.
Did she really?
Yeah, I think she worked. She was a Playboy Bunny waitress at that from reading somewhere.
Everybody's got stories of that place. Yeah.
And you had a dig to get that footage, but what blows my mind too is that how'd you get all that footage from the Headbangers Ball of Alice in Chains, and how did you clear that? Because that I remember Alice in Chains going there and seeing it when I was in LA. Like they went there, of course.
Well, not to reveal too much, but fair use law is a wonderful thing for documentarians and artistic repurposing of existing footage within the confines of the law. Yes.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
And you've got that dialed in.
I've got that dialed in. Many lawyers cleared that. Yes.
Yes, so, exactly.
Actually, Ricky Rackman got really, he started tweeting a ton about it. I think he was really excited to kind of see it all pop up. And he was tweeting, and I think Sports like Variety or some news outlet, that he has all of the raw footage from the Alice in Chains visit to Action Park. And he's like looking to do something cool with it, like create some content out of it. I would love to see the outtakes, the random the stuff they couldn't use on basic cable. But it's just so great also seeing those guys, like seeing Jerry and Lay, whatever, just like in their prime, having a good time and just like not on stage, just like we're just going down water slides. We're just going down and be like,
did you know that existed? Did you know that existed, or did somebody tell you about it when you were doing the?
No, that's out there. You don't have to look far into the depths of Action Park before you stumble onto that. Yeah. Okay. It's pretty widely available. Yeah.
Gotcha.
What was your favorite ride, Paul? What was your favorite?
It's going to sound really stupid, but I've just been thinking of it this entire time. And the one, I don't know why I loved it so much. It might have been an age thing because it definitely wasn't scary. But we used to love the army tanks where you just shot each other with the tennis balls.
Yeah. So we,
not bumper cars. No, it's actually like full demolition derby army tanks that shot tennis balls at each other.
What an amazing ride that was. That, in the movie we talked about how some dude basically took a can of gasoline and started pouring it all tennis balls and lit on fire balls out of those tanks because why not? But that's amazing to me because like those were so, okay, some rides you get like that's an off-the-shelf part, that's something you're buying from like a big manufacturer. Those are just like hobbled together. Some like a bunch of teenagers like, we're gonna build some tanks with some air cannons. We had a drive-in screening of the movie right before it came out on HBO Max in August, and I found some guys who collect old action park ride vehicles. So we had on site at the drive-in one of the speedboats, one of the Lola cars, and one of the tanks. And I got into the tank and I had like some photos in it, man. And as I said this before, like you just feel the ghosts. It's like so cool. Like he restored it, but like kept the the character, the patina, whatever. It feels like it doesn't feel overly polished or painted. And it's like that. Oh man, this is great. And it all comes back. So I got some photos sitting in one of those tanks. And again, like it's kind of a cool, weird little underground collector scene of people who collect these old ride vehicles. And what's really neat about collecting these things versus like the folks who collect like Disneyland stuff, and there's a lot of guys who connect like that, is you get like a Space Mountain ride vehicle. You can't ride that anywhere. Like it's useless. It doesn't have an engine. It needs a track. Any of these action parks like boats or go-karts, you restore them, you can ride that thing. You can take your action park tank out on like the road and just ride it. And that's what's so cool about these things, is they're usable. It's not just like a diorama piece,
Yeah, it's not just a car.
It's not a car. Like your Space Mountain car, I'd take one of those, but you can't ride it. You can't do anything unless you build Space Mountain at your house, so
Man.
Oh, we have one of those. We have Space Mountain. It goes around the roof.
Oh yeah.
What was your favorite ride, Seth?
I think the most fun rides, like just fun wise, were the Alpine Slide and the Colorado River Ride. Two like truly legendary rides that I think like really put the fear of God in a lot of young children's minds. Colorado River Ride's great because like on the surface, you look at this ride, you're in like a raft with like four buddies. It looks like a ride you'll see at King's Dominion or even at like Disney World, like the raft ride where you get soaking. That's a standard type of ride. But this one was just so jacked up, so extreme for its time, so experimental that it really was just like a totally different beast in that regard.
See, I'm more with you in the rides, and I wonder if that's because we didn't go with our buddies. I can't imagine, Paul, going with my friends and the pressure. Someone would have died. I mean, was that insane going with your buddies?
And that's the worst part, because it was the older brother who honestly didn't like me. Like, the older brother who bullies you anyway. He's the one that when you're at your friend's house, him and his friends are at you when you're trying to ride your bikes in the driveway. It's like he's driving. So it's just like it's that added pressure of we finally get to go. And we're going to get ridiculed the entire time if we don't prove we're as cool as, the 17-year-old.
You kind of have a fear, like there may not be a ride home for you if you don't do it, like.
So like my dad, I knew somewhere it was going to be okay.
This is before Uber. Like, what do I do if they just decide to be dicks and just leave without us? We're stuck in Jersey.
And if you're driving 4 hours from Connecticut or 3 hours from Connecticut, that ride, like, okay, the difference between like doing it, going it, and getting high five from your older sibling versus being like, I can't believe you're my brother. I just can't believe you're my brother. Like that, like for 3 hours, like you would do anything to make sure you end up on like the right side of that line.
Yeah, absolutely.
Man, Paul, I was saying that the coolest thing, one of the cooler things in the movie, I love that we all hear about people that die at amusement parks, at Great Adventure, and all these that was dealt with in the documentary really meant a lot to me, that because you realize someone deals with a family, someone goes, our son or daughter passed away at an amusement park, and that Seth dealt with that was huge to me.
No, and you always hear the myths, like there's the stories about like hidden Disneyland, hidden Disney World, the stuff that happens that they sweep under the rug, and it's kind of like you said before, it's like folklore. Is it real or is it not real? But that was the crazy thing about Action Park. Like if you told a parent or a grandparent that somebody died at Disneyland, they go, oh, no, that's urban legend.
Yeah.
But if you tell them it happened at Action Park, they go, oh no, that place was bad.
Bad News Bears right there. And Action Park, like I like to say, like Action Park was a series of kind of extreme sports masquerading as a children's theme park. Like a lot of these attractions, like you go to Disneyland, you go to Knott's Berry Farm, you go to Kingsman, you go to Six Flags, you're strapped in. It's the pre-programmed ride, and the worked out modeling and physics dictates what is going to happen to you. Action park rides were not like that. It was like you're skiing or something, you know, or driving a car. These were rides where, depending on how you, as the pilot, the person in control, chose to ride this ride, you would come out injured or not, or whatever it is. And the problem is, people are going into these things with the mindset that it's like Disneyland. I'm in an amusement park. This has to be safe. And they're not treating it like a ski resort where you're like, I'm watching my 10s, I'm watching my 6, I'm watching for that tree. I don't want to run into a tree. I got to be careful. Like when you go skiing, you got to be careful. Go to an amusement park, you don't think that. And so a lot of it is like this idea that like we're invincible. We're young, we're drunk, but we're at an amusement park. You can't get hurt in an amusement park. You got to try to get hurt at Disneyland. Action park, you got to try not to get hurt.
Yeah. No, one of the things I loved about the documentary too was it was more than just, it was about the time, and it was about the era, because you literally, and every generation does it to the generations after them. You know, it's like, you don't know how it was when I was your age, you know, and I always joke that now I've become the, hey, get off my front lawn, get off my yard. But it's like, that could never exist today. It could never exist today. Like, you can't even be a rock star today without getting in trouble. Like, how do you create an amusement park where people die and you're open through the whole thing? They cart the body away and then the next bunch of people go. It's like, it's crazy.
And I think like, I kind of view Action Park as sort of like a Rosetta Stone for Gen X in many ways. Like truly, and some of the highest praise we've gotten for the movie are people saying like, oh, I finally understand my husband now, or like this explains everything. Like people who had a really hard time, I think, even verbalizing, explaining like the constant dread of growing up at this time, and a constant feeling of fleetingness of like, yeah, my friend died, I could die, like just the way it was. And really, I think how that shaped Gen X into like tough as like just like a cool, tough generation that is hardy and gritty and able to handle stuff that I think other generations can, and nobody really understands or believes them when they kind of explain what they endured. And I wanted to, I think like we're very consciously kind of thinking like, I don't personally even identify as Gen X. I think I'm a little bit on the young side, but it's a generation of like the older kids who I'd like kind of look up to is what it was. And the people who I had like mad respect for as a kid growing up. And I kind of wanted to create like sort of a calling card for that generation. Yeah.
And it felt like that. I said, this felt like Teen Spirit or Welcome to the Jungle to me. It was one of those moments when I saw this, it just rocked it. And Paul, I never want to be that guy either. But the more I think about it, it's like, this is the first time, and maybe I'm wrong, that I think everybody's getting safer and more organized. Everybody got crazier. Each generation got crazier, it seems like. But now it's more organized and it's finally safer. I don't know,
Well, yeah, and I think what's dangerous now, like not knowing if you're getting catfished on the internet. I mean, there's no danger anymore. I mean, kids will go on Twitch and watch somebody play a video game for 3 hours instead of even playing the game themselves. Like if we weren't at Action Park, like our families wanted us to get out. They wanted us to go. They wanted me at the Little League field. And you know what? If I was getting rocks thrown at me by the bullies, I was getting tougher, and that was it. And if someone was picking on you, that was one of the rites of passage of growing up. And now it's a complete snowflake mentality now, where everything gets.
Yeah, at the same time, though, protected. I wanted to in the movie. One of the big questions, like one of the things that occurred to us that we kind of wanted to explain almost was like, why is it that yester generations latchkey kids are today's helicopter parents? Because the same kids who grew up like that are the ones who now are raising their own kids with the exact opposite mentality. And that was really like, that was in the back of my mind, like, what happened? And really the only explanation is like, it's like they saw some shit, they and really like, we kind of end the movie almost on this note where it's like, we went through these things. We're grateful for these experiences. We're glad we had them. Yeah. Doesn't mean we think they were good. Doesn't mean we would wish them on anybody else. In fact, in some instances, we do almost anything possible to keep our children from having to or not having the opportunity, but being forced to live through that experience.
Yep.
And it's really like, we want to basically walk away from this idea that like, we're not necessarily saying like everything was better back then. Things were different. It made people who they are. You're both simultaneously allowed to be grateful for your experiences and simultaneously think they're fucked up. It was really kind of what it ends up as, I think, because like in the end of the day, like safety is a good thing. Like people shouldn't get hurt, right?
Yeah.
But what do you lose? And there is a push and pull. There is a tug. It's not an easy answer. And I think we're allowed to live in that gray area, allowed to like embrace that duality, I think.
That's a great
point. Meanwhile, like
yeah.
we were allowed to do all that back then. And so if we were at like one of the last times we were at Six Flags before the Six Flags in Valencia before the shutdown. They have a carnival ride section there where there's like some of the rides you see at the carnivals, and we were on the roundup thing where you the rotor where you stand
stick to
up
the wall and puke, right?
No, not the stick to the wall one where you're like standing in the cage. You're standing in the cage and you're strapped in and the thing just spins around. So me pushing 50, I'm like, I'm gonna take a selfie of us while we're in the air. And the lady was threatening to turn the thing off because I had my phone out. And I'm like, the difference, I'm like, wait a minute. When I was like growing up, I would go on the rotor at Agawam 8 times in a row after eating clam chowder at Friendly's until I threw up. And you know what I mean? Like, and I'm not allowed to take out a camera, take out my cell phone on a ride today.
Well, to their credit, so at Universal Studios in Florida, they used to have, and that's not like even that old park I'm talking, they used to have this roller coaster called Dueling Dragons, which was like two roller coasters that would intertwine and almost like race each other. They had to stop. They would run them so they both start at the same time. So it felt like you're racing another roller coaster car. Really cool experience. Well, they had to stop that because somebody's like phone or keys or something came out and blinded somebody in the other car. Yeah, so that stuff happens. So you're doing like
you don't want to let go of your phone and have it like nail someone in the throat. Yeah, but I understand that.
Yeah, but Bray, you're talking about like the Gravitron, like the spinning flying saucer things.
Oh, that thing that you stick to the beach, like
and depending on like how shady the carnival you were going to was, they may or may not have restraints. So I remember ones you go to, you're just like standing against a wall.
There's the rotor in Great Adventure. It was the rotor.
Yeah, you're the rotor. Standing, yeah, and you're climbing like Spider-Man. Like you're going to get
you're right. I forgot about that.
If you weren't
documentary in the rotor.
If you weren't upside down by the middle of the ride, you were a vagina and you weren't allowed to do it again. It was just like, that's it.
You gotta go.
You're upside down and you're slow down because you're falling.
Oh, that really all about shit would get caught in the crease.
Yeah. Like by the end, like you just look and people's bodies are splayed in random angles and directions, and that thing stops. It's like, somebody's gonna fall and break their neck. Like it's just like,
like every third ride somebody throws up, and it's always spinning in the air before it lands.
They should be wearing masks back then for that. But it's like a salad mixing bowl. Like the dressing gets on everything.
Oh my God, I forgot. I haven't thought of that ride since I've been on it. Wow.
Yeah, my cousin and I, we literally did it like 9 times in a row until one of us couldn't do it anymore. And it was just to see who could go on it the most. And now I get like motion sickness if I get out of a couch too fast.
I can't even. I don't have the constitution to be spun around at such forces. As fun as it was, I just remember being so young, being like, I'm like fucking Spider-Man. I'm on the wall. I'm climbing here. It felt like this like insane thing that you shouldn't. Like you go back to school and you're like, dude, I was upside down. I had a suit. I was flying. Stuff's great.
And then you have that weird feeling. You want to have a Coke or something. You only have like $3.12 in your pocket to make it through the rest of the day because you blew some money on asteroids or something, and you got a truck
Pinball,
through the rest of the day, make a phone call to your mom to come home, end up calling collect.
Yeah, you only have enough money for funnel cake to eat.
Funnel cake,
clearly.
But you did that, and then today, if we do like 6 hours. 6 hours of roller coasters today. It's like for the next 2 days, I feel like I've been on the moon. It's like my equilibrium's off. I'm like, what?
For serious, like I go to like Busch Gardens or something like that, and it's like they don't have that many roller coasters in a day, but it's like they had any more, I couldn't ride them all in a day and stand. I don't even like the teen, like the smaller kind of ones. It's like it really That I noticed, man. I miss having like unlimited tolerance for roller coasters. That was superpower.
I can do it for roller coasters, but I can't do it for spinny things. But what is that feeling? Have you researched that? What is that feeling that a roller coaster? What is the chemical joy? Why is that just so euphoric to me? That those rides. What is the euphoria still?
Oh man, it's got to be everything. It's just like, I mean, we as people, I think, just love going fucking fast and having the wind in our face. It's like being in a convertible with the top down, you know, or like it kind of makes you as close as we'll get to being like an eagle soaring through the air. It's just like I'm being whipped around at insane speeds. Oh, guys, fastest roller coaster in the world is this thing at Ferrari World in Abu Dhabi in the UAE.
Okay. Oh wow!
And I went on this thing, and you got to sit in the front row. First of all, got to sit in the front row. They make you wear safety glasses because like the speed you get, like a speck of sand, you're like blind. You know, like you're done.
Oh wow!
Or God forbid, like I don't know if you guys ever seen the video when Fabio hit a goose at Busch Gardens.
Yes.
You know what I'm talking about. But you know, you go blind. You go like 160 miles per hour in like a second. It's like crazy, right? And there's no loops on this thing. It's just like you go, like launches you crazy fast. You go up and down. That's it. It is like it's crazy. It's a different sensation. Once you start hitting that stuff, it's like a different sensation. They have a ride at Kings Dominion in Virginia called the Intimidator. And it is intimidating. It is a ride that, if you look at the wiki page, absolutely true. It is infamous for the fact that virtually everybody who goes on it suffers a gray out. So you go on this ride and it's weird. You black out, you lose your vision, but you keep your consciousness. And so you get to the end, and typically when you're at the end at like a roller coaster or thrill ride, people are clapping and cheering. Yeah, we did it, like that thing. At the end of this ride, you get there and it's just silence, and people like, are you okay?
What just happened?
What just happened? Like, it's like, were we just like abused by this? Like, what just happened to us? It's really strange. But it basically, like, you go through this thing and you black out, you lose your vision, but you maintain your consciousness. And if you don't know what's coming, like you could freak out. Yeah. It's crazy.
Wow.
It's a crazy ride.
What's it called? The Intimidator?
It's like Intimidator 345 or Intimidator 435. It's got like a number. Yeah.
It's got a number, of course, because Intimidator was taken, and that was the only AOL email they could get.
Exactly. .com. It's like Blink 181, Blink 1 through 181 was taken, so they got a 182. I remember when that happened.
And King's Dominion, as a kid, all I wanted to do was get there. Because did you guys see that movie Roller Coaster?
Yeah,
I don't think so.
Oh, Roller Coaster was mean, and it took place in King's Dominion, and the guy gets nailed by a roller coaster in King's Dominion.
Is it like a horror movie?
Thriller. I think a 70s.
Like
1977. Oh, I gotta check that out.
Yeah, and they had all these, because they go through that whole. Yeah, it's like
Henry Fonda, Timothy Bottoms, Richard Segal. This was that like disaster movie. Yeah,
Roller Coaster. Yeah, but I think at the end, I don't want to give it away. He gets King's
don't
Dominion.
spoil.
Yeah.
So this, according to the wiki page, is one of the few films to be shown in Sensurround, which use extended range bass frequencies to give a sense of vibration to viewers during the coaster rides. So that would have been like an immersive theatrical experience.
No, I think I saw it. My dad obviously went a little high octane in his 20s, you know, a little outlaw, like, so he probably took us to that.
No, this wasn't filmed at King's Dominion. It was at Ocean View in Norfolk, Virginia.
You sure?
Yeah.
I thought that said King. Okay. Well, something made me want to go to King's Dominion, but Roller Coaster was a mean movie.
Roller Coaster's a mean movie. King's Dominion's great, man. Yeah.
Has anyone been my wife's favorite, because she grew up in Detroit, her favorite Cedar Point?
Oh, I haven't been, but that's like gotta go.
That's it.
It's the best coaster park in the world. Yeah.
That's one of the ones that we're gonna like. It's one of the Detroit in summer. We're gonna have to end up there, but I haven't been there yet. But she just raves about it. It's like the instrumental part of her childhood. Like Cedar Point.
Wow. Yeah, that always had like the coasters that were like 4 times bigger than anything else. Like just massive beasts of coasters. A Great Adventure, they got King Ka, which is like,
I heard that's insane.
I think the tallest in the world at some point, or maybe now.
What is that?
It's a insanely fast and high ride. It's like literally just go up and you go down, and the goal of that kind of ride is like getting those G's and getting the floaty zero gravity for as many seconds as you can, you know. So you go, it's like being in a parabolic like vomit comet plane, right? So you go up and you go down, and you're feeling like you're floating, you're feeling like you're flying. And that one it's either the fastest or the highest in the world.
Okay.
Not the fastest, it's the highest, I think. Yeah.
The highest.
You know what I think? Maybe I'm master of the obvious, but I don't know if you guys have ever read that book, The Power of Now, about being in the moment, about so much about that. Where we strive, dog's always in the moment, and that's what I think. Being a very ADD oriented kid, that I always just felt in it, and like everything was solved when I got on a coaster, because you're on nothing but the coaster. You're not thinking about anything else.
I mean, when you're fearing for your life, like you're about to die, you're not thinking about anything else.
That's part of the server's allure. Yeah.
And it's so funny because I have friends, like I said, I'm 49 years old. I have friends who are like, why do you want to go to a roller coaster? Why do you want to go to an amusement park? But it's like, it's like about as dangerous as I'm going to get at this point in my life. Because I'm like, I tried to learn how to snowboard, and you know what? I'll stick to skis because I don't get it. You know what I mean? Like a roller coaster is about as dangerous as it's going to get for me, because when I tried to learn how to snowboard, I ended up falling on my ass so many times I don't want to do it.
It's a pain in the ass.
But like, I'll go on a roller coaster. I'll do that. I'll fear for my life. What'll happen if we come off the tracks? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I love amusement parks. It's not just like the rides. It's just like sometimes, we talk about in the movie in Class Action Park a little, but some amusement parks are just really the vision of like a singular madman, like somebody's playing Sim City or Roller Coaster Tycoon. And there's something so weird about stepping into that world, like whether it's Walt Disney, who create a vision that ended up being very successful from a commercial perspective, or like Gene Mulville with Action Park, which was a very specific vision of how the world should be. And it's freaking cool and weird to do that, and to like leave the real world and enter this fantasy world, even if that fantasy is like all about almost killing you, So
so you mentioned the one in Abu Dhabi?
Yeah. It's Ferrari World.
Is that a whole amusement park, or is
there's a bunch of amusement parks in Dubai and Abu Dhabi that are mostly indoors. So Ferrari World is like an entirely enclosed indoor amusement park where the roller coasters leave the structure, like they zoom out, they load inside, but everything else, like most of the rides are all indoors. And it's like a giant, like being in like the biggest dome stadium you've ever seen kind of thing. And there's a bunch of these parks out there in that part of the world, because you need air conditioning, because it's too hot to be outside like 6 months of the year.
Wow.
Okay. And are the rides better there? Is it?
They're I mean,
comparable?
That it's not that they're better. It's that some of those places are really big into like being able to claim superlatives of some sort, like it's the fastest, the biggest, whatever. And so you get some of these like crazy superlatives. The other thing that's really strange about I've been to a number of these parks out there, is some of them are just like empty. Like you get the feeling it's just like, this is a money laundering scheme. Like nobody's ever going to this place. Like who goes to these things? So I've been to this other park, and it's called Motion Gate. And it was like themed after movies, and like different lands or like different movie studios. So you're in like Columbia Pictures Land, Lionsgate Land. Oh yeah, kids are going to Lionsgate Land. And Lionsgate Land was what it was, no joke. It was the Hunger Games and Step Up. That was what it was. So
oh wow.
What a themed world, right? The Hunger Games and Step Up. And you go to this place and you're like, they paid up the gazoo for all this IP, like all these big movies. Not a soul there. Just not a soul there. And it's very strange and weird going through that.
Man. And you know what, Paul, I know you met in music, and Gene was this, I think. I work with Kim Fowley. Do you remember Kim Fowley? Just that he formed the Runaways, named Joan Jett, but it's this type of lunatic that has no rule book. It's one step away from Charles Manson. It seems like Gene was one of these Phil Spector, just lunatics, not in every way, not as bad, but a madman. We, just no rules. I mean, just we used to, when I was with Kim Fowley, he would lean out of my car and say, uninsured teenage car coming through, and say, drive up the side of the road, I'll pay the ticket. And it was like a Gene, that type of dude. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Rules
were suggestions to some of these guys. And it really, and also like these guys were all charismatic and these personalities where you just kind of go with it. I
love those dudes. I love them. You can't explain it to somebody else, but I love them.
Yeah. You can't get away with doing that unless you're just like really fun to be around. Like you got to be like super fun to be around. If you're doing that stuff and you're like a drag, you can't do it.
Right.
And they're usually good dudes underneath all their madness. Even if they put their kids in cannons and shoot them and stuff, they're usually semi-good dudes that want to make people happy.
Yeah, they're complex people. I think like Gene himself too. What makes him an interesting character isn't that he's not Mr. Burns. He's not like this cartoon villain. He was like some people who knew him loved him. He was a family guy, popular around town, gave a lot to charity, did all that stuff. Just had an insane vision for an amusement park and a casual disregard for laws. It's so
casual disregard.
It's and there's something, I think we as like, it's almost in our national identity, that mentality, I think like we as Americans, we identify as rebels, rule breakers, whatever it is. It becomes part of the mythos. And as long as we're not the ones personally getting fucked, we all kind of root for it a little bit.
Yeah.
Till it comes for us, so.
Till it comes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, man, Seth, thank you for making such a great film. And Paul, thank you for everybody showing up, man. This has been a blast.
Do you ever stop and go, who knew that I would become the preeminent authority on Action Park?
Yeah, I do. Actually.
Sometimes when I'm like spouting music trivia at people, I'm like, I would have never thought this is where I'd end up. And it's like even crazy. You're the Action Park guy now.
Isn't that weird? And it's weird because like, again, like it was always just this little bit of trivia and memory banging around my brain, and like the water it and cultivate it to this, like, yeah, I kind of feel that way. It's strange. It is strange. And I feel like, I could have, because I only went there a couple times, because I didn't grow up in Jersey, could have gotten it wrong. Could have been like, this guy doesn't get it. But I don't think I did. And especially like talking to the people from Vernon, the kids who grew up working there, the kids who grew up season passes, the kids who grew up like in a backyard, they're the ones who's like, if they would tell me if I got it wrong, and they love it. And I feel super grateful that many of them like trusted me with their story and with their childhood. Because, I'm coming some out of town strangers coming in and being like, I want to turn your childhood into a movie. And, you would know if you fucked it up. Right. Yeah. So I feel like they would let me know.
Did you have some of those people watching it throughout the process, or did you just basically trust your vision at that point?
We're not, as documentary filmmakers, it's oftentimes like not kosher to show people things till they're done. Okay. Everything is just like raw clay till it's done.
Yeah.
So like they saw it when everybody else saw it. Okay. It was great that, they kind of ended up being like my street team and my foot soldiers, kind of getting the word out. They ended up being like the biggest evangelists for the movie. And I'm sure that like HBO Max got a bunch of signups from the Vernon, New Jersey zip code. Yeah. At the end of the day, but it was really cool just seeing how much they loved it. And I think a lot of them loved like sharing it with their family and their kids, and showing like their kids like, hey, your dad was kind of cool at some point, like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Wow. Man. That's great.
Congratulations on signing with CAA. That was pretty cool, man.
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
That really
congrats.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. That was like issued as a news release the other day because apparently nothing else is happening in the world.
Yeah, there's nothing going on. Nothing going on.
That was really cool, man. And just such a magical film. And it changed me a lot. It made me, I started having BMX guys on my shows, the older BMX guys, not just rock, and now rock and amusement parks, and this equation where someone once said to me, I know we've said this, is like the more things you give up that you loved as a kid, the more miserable you get.
And what was it? You're not listening to music and doing nothing. You're listening to music and playing pinball or on your BMX, whatever it is. Like it all kind of goes in hand. Like music is like the soundtrack to your childhood. It's not divorced from it. And I think like, and a lot of what these guys like. I mean, anytime you want to talk about like metal and pinball all day long, I will, because there's just so much overlap there with like all these bands. You look up like photos, you'll find like the Ramones playing pinball, like Debbie Harry, bring her up again, like Blondie. All these guys were big pinheads because pinball, and this is the thing I think a lot of people forget about pinball, which makes it super interesting, is it was illegal in most of America until the mid-70s. And it was like the domain of outlaws and rule breakers and roughnecks, and it became kind of synonymous with like gritty underground. Right? Like to find a pinball machine in New York in the early 70s, you had to know like what porno shop to go to and what curtain to pull back to find like a hidden pinball machine. And so it became this kind of like punk rock thing just because it was banned. It was illegal. And even once it became legalized again in 76 in New York and similar kind of years in most of the other cities it was banned, it still had this reputation as being for like scofflaws and outlaws and whatever else, and was really viewed as being a mob thing by the previous generation. So the kids were coming to age in the in 77 and early 80s. Well, those kids, their parents look at pinball as if it's something that only like no good mobsters would do, right? Yeah. And so their kids are rebelling by playing pinball, and and I think it really comes tied up with some of the more subculture driven music scenes as a result too.
Yeah,
man.
Well, what's if you don't mind me asking, if it's not top secret, what's next? What do you do after Action Park?
It is top secret, but I'll tell you. No, I'll tell you guys about it when I can. It's going to be really cool. Here's what I'll tell you: is like Action Park was my 1980s.
I didn't mean to take over the interview question. Sorry about that.
No, I love it. No.
This isn't an interview. It's a conversation.
This is a conversation. That's why
it's not an interview.
Questions.
Conversation. Love it.
It's not an interview. It's a conversation. So if Action Park was my 1980s movie, kind of like leaning into the language of your Goonies and your Breakfast Club, whatever else, my next one is my 1990s movie. Is what it is. So it's kind of it'll just say like more specific, like an action movie. So before it was like my 80s coming of age kids adventure movie. This is my 80s 90s action movie. So
that's cool.
There'll be another documentary. Yeah. Okay.
It is. Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. That's cool.
Hey, how far is it off? Is it still a ways away?
Yeah, I mean, you'll call me in like a year. It'll be out. We're in like pre-production now. We'll be filming soon. Yeah.
So Seth, you inspire me to get all these older BMX guys that it's the same thing. What were they about? This is just something that I thought was cool. I was talking to Eddie Fiola, the guy that Rad was based on.
Yeah.
And he told me, he said, the problem with the BMX footage, I just thought it was so interesting. He goes, we don't have a lot of footage because with the skateboard crew, you had a camera guy that rolled around with you and he was your camera guy. With BMX, he goes, we're all on bikes. No one wanted to film. No. So we barely have any film when you just go out on that stuff. You had no camera crew when you just roll and do the real stuff.
Yeah, it's because you got handlebars. You don't have any hands.
Nobody was filming, man. Yeah. Nobody.
And then GoPros and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Nobody was off a bike. Well, dude,
imagine strapping one of those old cameras to your head.
The thing is, we would.
Yeah. You'll find whenever you find that like diamond into roughled footage from then, like even like some of the stuff we got in Action Park, I'm like, who's bringing that giant camcorder to a water park in 1984? And you talk to people and it's like, yeah, my dad was just the guy with the camcorder, but it's like, it
know what? I'm going to guess it's some dad that wants to prove to his wife that he wasn't cheating on him. So he's got some big con where he's meeting the mistress at the Playboy Mansion and he's got the camera to
and then, when you go through all the raw footage and like mysteriously zooms in and some girl in a bikini or something like, can't hide.
Jersey is a rare breed. Like you say, Boston's the only rarer breed, man.
Yeah.
Just nuts. Well, this was so much fun, guys. Thank you so much, man. This was a blast.
Thank you, Brett.
Anytime. Great chatting with you guys.
So cool, man. Thank you. And
it was a pleasure. I loved the doc. So
appreciate that very much. It means a lot. Thank you.
And I'll let you guys know when I'm putting it up. And we'll have to do something else where we talk music. You got to join us on one of our music talks, Seth.
Anytime. Happy to.
All right.
And Brett, I'll do music anytime.
I love it. And by the way, I love Hurricane. Do you work with Hurricane?
I do. We're working on a video right now. We're working on a video for a cover they did, and it's a new album. We're doing it all right now. Hopefully 20. I mean, I don't know about 21 anymore, but it'll definitely be if end of year 21 into 22. There's going to be a new record.
What an underrated band.
When we cut filming here, let me know. I want to ask you guys a couple questions.
Okay,
offline.
I'll stop it now.
Yeah.
I can say.